Alright, I'll be reviewing 7 Brief Lessons of Physics by Carlo Rovelli. This will be likely the last Carlo Rovelli book I will review due to me noticing a pattern in his books, and I think that, I'll review it. So, this, as the title mentions, makes 7 brief lessons about physics. I would dare say 6, but it does a general overview of the most popular theories and puts us up with the information that is available about quantum physics and physics in general, but more so focused on quantum physics and theories of the sort. It makes a brief introduction of Albert Einstein, Maxwell, some of the Newton's laws. It makes a slight mention of Hawking's. It goes through the most pivotal moments, but very briefly so. And I do believe this is one of the best books that you can get in order to get introduced into physics, because it does catch all the interesting questions, and it makes a very good job at introducing us into the modern landscape of physics, and glamorously so. It's very pleasant to read. It's very, very thin. This one I reread actually today. I had read it a few months ago, and then I revisited it today in order to review it properly. And while doing this, I did notice that there were many sentences. I'm not sure of how many, but more than 2 or 3, or maybe even more than that, that were straight from either Reality Is Not What It Seems or Helgoland. So this is basically a subtraction of those, but it is a pop version of physics. Reality is not what it seems. I actually have it right here. So this is the book I just finished a little bit ago as well. Reality is not what it seems. This is 7 brief lessons of physics, and it's even smaller, like in height. So you can imagine that the content is significantly shorter, much more. It's compact in information. That is not to say that it's not useful. That is not to say that it's not a good book. I genuinely believe that this is a very, very good introduction to physics, because, again, it strikes all the important questions, and it is very easy. The presence of mathematics in comparison to Helgoland and Reality Is Not What It Seems, it is minimal. I don't think, actually, there's not more than just like a very few equations of math. It makes an effort to avoid mathematics, and rightfully so, because it doesn't want to scare away anybody, and I think it does glamorously. It's very well achieved. I think it's really nice to pull out anywhere at any time. It's very easy to read. It also pushes forward the notion of not the notion, but rather it does encourage the reader to explore more further than the book. It's not meant to tell you everything that's going on. It's meant to encourage you to investigate further on as to what physics can offer and what the universe can offer. And I think that for that purpose, it does a really good job. If you were to compare it with A Brief History of Time or Reality Is Not What It Seems, extremely short. It gets the point across. It's informative. You don't see any of the biases of the author in this book. At least I didn't notice it as much in comparison to Helgoland or, again, Reality Is Not What It Seems. You cannot see the presence of his own biases or pushing forward his own theories as much. It doesn't dwell that much on loop quantum theory or in string theory. I don't even think it mentions string theory in this book, actually, but it does acknowledge the the merits of the scientists that puts us in a landscape that we can understand today. I'm not sure if that really made sense, but it does push forward the information that we have available in order for people to maybe theorize their own ideas. But it is not, it is a very inviting book. I think that's the way that I can define it the best. It's very inviting, it's easygoing, it's very small, it has very small, a very small presence of heavy mathematics or algebra. If not any at all, genuinely has very little, and that I like a lot because that can easily scare away people that are trying to get into physics. And I think this, for the purpose that it's trying to serve, it works very well. And again, just in a very Rovelli fashion, the last chapter of the book actually focuses on the maybe psychological aspect of it, the more philosophical or more metaphorical. It dwells more about what we perceive of reality and how we understand things, and planting the seed on whether we really have a reliable notion of reality based upon our own sensorial organs, right? Is what we see, what we hear, what we smell, is that everything that there is, and can we trust it as much? And he does answer this. I think we can very easily run into the conclusion nonetheless, but he makes it nice and easy. It's a fun book. It is very informative. It explains things very well. It does not dwell too much on I don't want to repeat it too much, but pragmatics. So it's not going to tell you the whole deconstruction of the theory of quantum gravity, but it's going to run around it a little bit and explain to you why it's important, why it's relevant, what is amazing about it, who did it. Well, we all know who did it, but the overall energy of it is there, and it does a really good job to encourage people into learning more about physics. At least to me, it struck me that way. Especially since I've already read books of him beforehand. This does come as a little refresher, if anything. And it's very... it's fun to read. I can't say much more than that. It's very... You shouldn't last more than a day reading it. It's very short. And I do think it contributes a lot to what if you didn't know anything about it. I think it's really good to start by this. Genuinely, this is perhaps the best starter. I would rate this book a 7.5. I think I'm going with that. I've been thinking about the score for a while, but I think 7.5 gets the point across very well. Just because it doesn't contain as much as other books like Reality Is Not What It Seems, and because it doesn't dwell too much on the pragmatism of it, so you can learn a little bit about it, but you're not going to learn too much. It's much more just to step a foot, to dip your toes into the water a little bit, and but it does very gracefully so. So 7.5 I think is more than reasonable. I would recommend it to anybody that's interested in physics. You can start by here. It's fascinating. It really pushes forward the marvelous concept of the universe, and you should genuinely, if you're trying to look into physics, I think this is your guide, this is your book, and you can probably start by here and then maybe continue with this guy. I wouldn't recommend Helgoland to learn as much, but I do think that it has some interesting things to offer. Regardless of that, I do not believe I will keep reading too much about Carlo Rovelli, just because I think that the information does become redundant given a few books after. It's just kind of repeating the same cycle of trying to introduce you into physics, and it doesn't necessarily contribute that much more. But I do think that maybe you can likely replace these books with other of him and still get the same amount of information. Great book. I would recommend it. 7.5, 7 Brief Lessons of Physics. Carlo Rovelli. Go buy it.